I just want to summarize so that I understand it correctly as you put it, and then go to the next point. So I think if I think of it as a kind of like a mathematical equation, I would say that Brahman plus Maya is equal to Ishvara, because Brahman is the inherent substratum. When it takes on the attribute of Maya, then it takes the form of Ishvara. And Brahman plus Avidya is equal to Jiva. When Brahman takes on the form of ignorance, it becomes the individual Jiva. So Jiva and Ishvara, that
medium as mind then.
Yes. So that's why even Maharshi says that Ishvara and Jiva are same, the only difference is the Upadhi. One is Maya as Upadhi, one is Avidya as Upadhi. And the other example I recently came across, which is, I'm sure you are very familiar with, is it said very nicely that if the waves are Jiva and the ocean is Ishvara, the water is Brahman. So the water is the inherent truth of the ocean. And from the water's perspective, there is no ocean, there is no wave, nothing. But when it takes on the attribute, what we call Maya, then it becomes the ocean, which is the omniscient, omnipotent power. And in that there are multiple waves called Jiva. So I think that was my first question. The difference between Maya and Ishvara is very clear. That the attribution of Maya causes the appearance of what we call Ishvara, which is non-different from Brahman. So,
Just I want to add one point as you mentioned here. Although we generally say Ishvara, Jiva and the created world, three of all these are the manifestation of Brahman. We generally say this, but I want to just clarify a point for the listeners. As per the methodology of creation in Vedanta, to correctly put the point, we say the world is created from Brahman. The word creating or manifestation is used only in regard with the world outside, the objects outside, including the physical body is also included there. But when we talk about individual consciousness as Jiva, Vedanta never says that it is a manifestation. The word manifestation is not used there. Then what the correct word is? There are two words, two techniques to explain it. Jiva is not a manifestation of Brahman, but Jiva is reflective consciousness as Brahman. Jiva is a reflection. We call it Pratibimba Nyaya. The surface for reflection is mind, the purest form of intellect, that is Shuddha Sattvika Buddhi, that is we call Antakarana. It is a reflection. Why we bring this? When we say reflection, the reflection is not a creation. Reflection is the reflected object as it is. Like the sunlight is reflected, the reflection has all that qualities of the sunlight and it has no difference. The sun itself is reflected. This is one point for the clarification of manifestation. The another analogy used to explain this same point is the the space outside, ether, and the space inside the room, we say Mahakasha and Ghatakasha. The space inside the room, space outside the room, even space inside our body is the one and the same. Because there is no factor which can divide or make any change in space. So, space is uncreated in this sense. Space is unchanged. Even though we say the space inside the room, we call it as room. What the room is? Room is the space inside. Outside space, we call it outside space or ether, whatever. Now here the word is used, avachinna. Avachinna means delimited. The all-pervading consciousness delimited with the pure intellect is called Jiva, individual consciousness. Therefore, this individual consciousness is non-different from the consciousness outside all-pervading consciousness. So this we have to remember when we talk about the manifestation theory in Vedanta regarding Jivatma. Similarly, Ishvara. Just now we explained it well. The Ishvara is delimited with the agent called Maya. It means Ishvara become Ishvara because of the attribution of Maya. So here the attribution is intellect and the body as such. And there the attribution is Maya, the nature of Maya. Now, in the Maya, there is Sattva, Raja, Tama, three gunas, all karmas for the creation, all the imprint samskaras of the creation, whatever we need for the creation, whatever we are going to elaborate with this creation. Extensively we elaborate it. So these all potencies are there in the Maya. But even that Maya is limited. Although it holds the potentiality to create the world for ever, it means continuously one after another. Even then it is limited. Okay? So this has to be remembered regarding this. It is an interesting point. Because Vedanta has incredibly explained all the factors we need to know regarding this. Nothing is missed. Because there was a long process or continuity of research and experience and explanation. We have got many textbooks which we can say in the terms of textbook that they have explained it so well. And not only with the textbook, because no philosophy, no theory is going to stand until that is not experienced. Because just philosophy, just textbook knowledge will not do. Informative knowledge will not do anything. It will not bring any effect. So because with this knowledge, people practiced and they have experienced. So we have acharyas like Shankaracharyas, Ramana Maharshi, and there are so many acharyas. The rishis, munis, and even today there are acharyas. So how it is coming? So they will practice it and experience it. So these two go together. The textual knowledge, informative knowledge, which is with a full logical and practical explanations, than the experience. So therefore it is complete. Now, the next question I wanted to take is why we have to believe in Ishvara. So the bhakti here. As you asked, bhakti can be explained as tremendous love for Ishvara. Ishvara as the substratum of this creation. Ishvara as the ultimate cause, efficient cause, as material cause of the creation. Now, then the question comes, why we need to believe in Ishvara? If Ishvara is supreme consciousness, where the consciousness lost in this creation? How the consciousness is not seen in all the creation? Only the essential being, the consciousness is manifested. But in another non-sentient beings as air, fire, earth, water, the manifestation what we see has no consciousness. If this creation has not consciousness, how can we say the consciousness is the ultimate creative power, ultimate cause? Now, before entering to that explanation, I will just to try to say what the bhakti means. Why we need the bhakti? Bhakti is not a belief. Bhakti is not a belief. Bhakti is not a imaginary concept. Bhakti is not only an emotional thought of mind. According to Vedanta, bhakti is, really speaking, it's a complete dedication to the creative power as Ishvara. Why we dedicate? Because I don't want to use the surrender word here, because there is no surrendering factor. It's a dedication. What you got, you say this is not mine. You dedicate it. You are complete, dedication to anything. Yeah, that is tremendous love. Now, dedication, that is one thing. Why we dedicate? What is the idea behind? Because when we say we love, when we love anybody, whoever loves, they know why we love. Behind love also there is a reason. Although we say without condition, unconditionally we love, we want to love unconditionally, but love even the emotion, because any emotion, any thoughts formed in the mind has a reason behind it. Without reason it cannot form. You may be knowing the reason, may not be knowing, but the reason has to be there. I am speaking on the point of the reality, the experience, if we take the love itself. So it is interesting, even the love as say, immense or tremendous love, this has a reason behind it. When we know about the creation more and more, when we know about the power and the abilities and the support we get from super consciousness as God or supreme consciousness as God, we have the emotion, we increase the emotion as love towards that consciousness, that entity. Love and respect and dedication, it comes. You are getting my point? So now why we have the bhakti towards Ishvara? You can have the bhakti towards Ishvara, real bhakti, only if you know what is Ishvara is. Now, in relation with this, the Vedantas speaks about the Ishvara, why we need Ishvara, why we create the concept of Ishvara to explain this. And bhakti, you know, bhakti is useful for the sadhana. And the ultimate benefit of that sadhana must be emancipation or together with oneness with Ishvara or oneness with all this creation, whatever we say as Advaitam, Moksha and all this. Okay? Now, the reason behind this immense love is, it should be the gratitude towards the Creator. The gratitude, the full gratitude towards creation. Now this word, people understand what is gratitude means. Gratitude means you have your body because of this supreme power. You have your mind working because of this supreme power. You have the objects to enjoy because of this supreme power. You are breathing because of this supreme power. Now you see, I am going to explain the existence and experience of Ishvara. If we follow this and meditate on that, one sadhaka can really experience how this is. Now, when we feel a great form of gratitude related to this, we feel endless respect, endless love. Because somebody is helping us unconditionally, not asking us what you need. The complete protection from the birth to death. Why we will not feel a gratitude? Therefore, to bring this idea into the minds of sadhakas, why we need to do bhakti, why we need bhakti. You see, now I said why we need to do bhakti, but this sentence is wrong. Because bhakti as such, love or any whatever you explain it, whatever you mean, the bhakti cannot be created. Bhakti should be automatically formed. Bhakti is an emotion. It may be based on some reason. That is different story, but it is formed automatically. It means without any other pressure or guidance. How it is formed? If you know the nature of yourself, how you are living, how is your body is created, how this is created, how is everything connected to the Supreme Power. As much as you know, as deeply as you know, you will be more and more bhakta, and you will feel more and more gratitude, dedication, love, respect towards that entity. So this is become the real bhakti in Vedanta. That is Swaswarupa Anusandhanam. Okay? Now, with this, we will see why we feel gratitude towards Ishvara, how we can explain it, what is Ishvara means. Because Ishvara is consciousness. Where is consciousness? Because the science says there is no consciousness, there is no consciousness, because the consciousness as knowledge cannot create anything. That is the concept, that is the idea of science now. Now, we will start this subject because this subject needs little time to explain. Now, how the consciousness is the cause of creation. First thing I want to say, this concept of consciousness, what is understood by the word consciousness, is not the correct meaning in Vedanta. The first thing I want to explain this. Now, what is consciousness means? That say the consciousness is knowledge. Like I am conscious about my body, I am conscious about the object outside, I am conscious about my emotions, my thoughts. So it means you know it. When I say I am conscious about this, it means you know it. Right? So this is the meaning. Normally, the science and the dictionaries, whatever they normally we understand, this is the meaning of consciousness. Now, Vedantic concept of consciousness, because no other word is there in English to communicate this concept. We can maximum use is that the word consciousness with some adjectives, like the potency of consciousness or the pure consciousness, the consciousness without change. So something you have to add, because Vedanta is taking consciousness something beyond this realm of understanding. So now you see, if you take only this consciousness as just a knowledge that you have, you are living with that. You know. When I say I know, so I am conscious about this. This is not the consciousness Vedanta is talking about. This is not the consciousness of Ishvara. This is not the supreme consciousness. This is the consciousness connected to the brain. What you are talking about, the consciousness is the working brain. What is consciousness? Consciousness is the energy of brain. Consciousness is the synapses, connections of synapses. Synapses, what they say, the brain connectivities. Is a neurological process. But if you take this much as consciousness, you are far away from the consciousness which Vedanta is talking about. Now, I will slowly try to explain this from this direction. If we think about this as consciousness, what Vedanta says, this creation is based on consciousness, or creation, the ultimate cause of this creation is consciousness, would be wrong. Because there is no brain seen in the stone. There is no brain in the water. There is no brain in the air. There is no brain in the wood. So now how can you say this is consciousness? This is a big problem when people study Vedanta, and after a long study also they are unable to understand this. So to explain this, we need little bit scientific support. Why we take the scientific support? Because when we talk with scientific terms or with that concept, people get the idea easily. They can understand it easily. And especially when we talk in English. If we use all the Sanskrit technical terms, it cannot bring the idea here. Okay? So now, in Vedanta, the sentient and insentient, the first theory I am going to talk is what is sentient and what is non-sentient. Vedanta says sentient being has mind physically as brain. So which being, which entity has brain and mind function is called sentient being. Okay? And which entity has no brain and no mind function is non-sentient. Now what does it mean here? Which has brain is sentient, which has no brain is non-sentient. Okay? This step is okay. Now, then Vedanta says, Shankaracharya says in Sutra Bhashyam, Na Vilakshanatva Adhikaranam, there is a question asked. How can you believe in this creation as the conscious being? Because there are no consciousness is seen there, experienced there. So how you say this is also the creation of consciousness, Chaitanya? So there he answers rightly. He says, with this, connecting with the brain science and neurology and all these things, we connect to the mind, psychology or whatever. He says, where there is mind, intellect, there the consciousness is reflected effectively. And where there is no mind, the consciousness is not reflected effectively. So the reflection, where the reflection happens, it has some special material manifestation. And in another case, there is no such manifestation, so it is not reflected as such. but both the places, both the entities has the same consciousness. For example, the sunlight is everywhere, but it is specially reflected in water, the smooth surface of water, and the glass, in the mirror, in the pearls, in the germs. So these are the objects with special kind of surface which can attract the light and reflect it in a multiplied way. But the same light is reflected on stones, the normal stones, the black stones. But the reflection is different. It is not shining. Although it shines, but the shining is different. And when you see the material cause of that, the normal black stone and the stones like germs and others, both has the material cause as earth. Both are earthly creations. Because they have the same carbon and all those gases and everything is same, no? The manifestation is different, little change is there, therefore the reflection is different. So this is the reality of consciousness in Vedanta. Here also, when the mind is not functioning, or the mind is dead, the brain is dead, the body becomes dead body. It has no consciousness. Because there was something which was forming this thought process and the movements and all whatever the activity was there. Now that is dead. The brain is dead. But still the consciousness is there. According to the science concept today, they cannot say after death there is consciousness in that. So you have to go little beyond. Okay? This point is clear. Therefore, brain is only the medium in a level of manifestation to reflect the consciousness or make the consciousness functional and show it. Okay? Now this consciousness which is all pervading, which has no separation as sentient or insentient being. This consciousness, which is, we can say, the pure consciousness. Now how it is manifested in this? You see, consciousness means knowledge, right? Knowledge, we can say in another word, knowledge. And what is knowledge? Knowledge is related to an object, an information about object. Right? We can say knowledge. Knowledge means I have science knowledge, I have computer knowledge, I have Vedantic knowledge. I know how to drive, I know how to cook, I know how to talk. So this is in relation with the object. It means you are informed, you learned it, so you know it. Now, this knowledge is information, and information is stored in different forms. Information is, you have some information in different forms. Like when we read, The book is informing us. The information is there. You are getting the information and you know it. Okay? And in computer we have so much information. In Googles we have so much information. Right? Now, consciousness, knowledge becomes information. If information is stored in different forms, can we accept this? The information is stored in different forms. And the informations are guiding or instructing, directing the actions, the reactions, the changes. Because now the computer example will be fine to take for elaboration. Now whatever information fed in the hardware as software, as information as software, and it is there in the hardware. Is it conscious or unconscious? We can't say it is conscious. The computer hardware is not conscious about itself, but it has information. It can form actions. It can manifest in different ways. It can function as a tool. It can destroy war weapons. It can do a war. It can make objects in the factories. Everything is fed there. And now the aeroplane, the war fighter planes without human beings, the computer directs. Now you see. Now I am going to take the Sankhya concept and Vedantic concept and science together here. Now, we can't say where there is information, there is consciousness. This is wrong now, no? We can only say where there is brain, there is consciousness, according to normal understanding of scientific understanding, whatever we say, the physics. According to Vedanta, this is not right. But for the sake of understanding, we can take this. Now, this information makes the actions and reactions. Now, take this point. If computer with software can do all this with this information, then why not this creation? What is happening in the stone? What is happening in the water? What is happening in the air? What is happening in this dry wood? How can we say this wood is not informed how to change? You are getting me? I am bringing this point to this. Now, the science says there is a carbon test. Testing the stone, black stones, the result can affirmatively say how old it is and what change it had all these years of its life. Now where it is informed? How they got the information? They got the information from the carbon of that object and the carbon molecules, carbon atoms of that object. Right? It means that carbon atoms had some information there, some instructions there. some stored data as it in computer. You see the wonder? It means we can believe that the stored data in the carbon molecules is giving the information that this stone is this much old. And so many changes happened there. And still that changes are happening there. Now then we bring a equation here, a Vedantic equation, where there is action or reaction, where there is change, there is an information coded. There is an information stored. Without that, no action and reaction can take place. This is an equation. You see the wonder there. If you can get that information into your mind, because the body is also doing all this. We will take up the body for the direct experience in next session. So this is the consciousness Vedanta is talking about. This information is also consciousness according to Vedanta. How can you say it is dead? The death means no existence. If the existence is there, the material cause is there, energy is formed, if any action changes is taking place, it has a information stored there. We can call it stored data of that object. So that data is knowledge. That data is information. Otherwise, how can you get the knowledge there? You try to identify with that object through this knowledge formula. If I am having this knowledge, this is also having this knowledge. Having known this, having experienced this, the Jnani says, I am there as well. I am there too. I am forming this. So how can you say it is wrong? Because he is taking his real sense of consciousness, real experience of consciousness. He is not taking the information in the brain. He is not taking the individuality there. Because he has demolished and removed the individuality. Now only he has the identification with that consciousness. So that consciousness is same the consciousness with the information. Because each cell of the body has this information. Each cell of the body has this information. Now, the bodily, physically information, we will connect this. It is a wonderful thing. We can directly experience with the concept of Vedanta. And I will connect this with the cosmos, with the individual, and then again we will bring the dedication and this bhakti as a great concept of gratitude. And then you have asked the question of directly having the knowledge and indirectly having the knowledge. It means studying the scriptures, you have the knowledge, and without that, you have quoted two types of knowledge, Vedantic knowledge. So I will connect that and conclude. Okay? So we remember this point. Now this information is there in outside objects as we have information inside. So the information is same, and the formula says where there is action, there is some information coded. When we decode those information, we get that the carbon test result. Okay, we will continue. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hare